goes to right. Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What's going on, guys? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. The Party on Broad pod can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are watching us on YouTube. All right, guys, let's talk NFL draft. We are going to talk today about the best prop bets in the NFL draft. Joining us today is Money Max. Max does weekly best bets during the NFL season and absolutely kills it. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter at MoneyMaxTPL. What's up, my man?
Not much. How about you?
Doing good, man. We're just a few days to the draft. The countdown has started. I've been doing mock after mock after mock on the Draft Network's mock simulator. Yep. You know, trading up, trading down. Man, I'm just addicted. How about you?
I've always done mocks my whole life, and it's always been like, you know, paper pencil. Then I graduated to Excel. Then I graduated to Draft Networks, where you can do the trades. You can have all that kind of stuff. You can see if a team might make the trade or not. So it's been a lot of fun going through all those. And then when you add in the prop bets and you see how odds are, things like that, it can affect your mock because why is that guy's odds changing so much? And it could give you a little hint like, okay, maybe such and such team is targeting that player. So it adds a whole nother level when you add in the betting perspective, because one thing's for sure, Vegas knows a lot more than we do. So when they are doing something, it usually is backed by a lot of evidence.
Yeah, man, this is like my favorite time of year. The NFL draft, the NBA draft, these are my favorite nights of the year. Yep. And something that was really interesting, because we're going to be talking about betting today. And Adam Schefter tweeted probably a few days ago that he talked to a general manager and said, all of the site experts, the mock draft experts, their boards are completely wrong. On top of that, you have the coronavirus and a virtual draft. And is this the most chaotic, most fun?
It's got it. Because, you can't think of anything that would have been like this ever since the draft has become such a spectacle that it is now. It went from being just like a afterthought that gets reported in the newspaper to now it's like a lot of people like the draft more than they like watching their own team play because it's the only hope they get. So the draft has just become so mainstream. Now you're going to see what it's like with, Zoom calls or however, the NFL is going to do it. So it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, there's nothing more fun when someone goes in that top 15 range that should have been like a second round pick or had a third round grade. It's happened way more often to Eagles than probably any other team, but let's talk about the NFL draft. Let's talk about specific bets. Before we get to the specific bets, dude, what is your approach with prop bets in the NFL draft?
All right, so there's a couple things to keep in mind. The first, and this is the biggest, is you see, especially with Twitter nowadays, every single person has an opinion. Every single person says, I'm hearing from sources such and such. And, one of the prime examples is, the whole Eagles are targeting CeeDee Lamb. How he's going to do everything to trade up and get CeeDee Lamb. So the big thing with that is who's tweeting it and who stands to gain from it. Because obviously the Eagles don't stand to gain anything from revealing to the world who they're targeting. So when you see something like, the Eagles are getting CeeDee Lamb, going to trade up to get CeeDee Lamb, in my mind, it's almost like, okay, they're not. And why would they say that? So you think, was it CeeDee Lamb's agent saying that because, Eagles and Howie Roseman are known to trade, and maybe he's trying to persuade other teams to trade up to go get CeeDee Lamb or get CeeDee drafted higher so he gets more money. But the last thing in my mind is like, Howie's definitely going to go trade for CeeDee Lamb because so-and-so on Twitter just, said he was. No, I'm not saying they're not, but it's just important to realize that when you see buzz, there's a reason for it. There's always, the hidden outliers, and it's never what the words say. So just be careful when that comes out that don't go and run and bet all your money that the Eagles draft CeeDee Lamb in the first round of the draft. Second is kind of along the same lines as just looking at the actual odds that Vegas sets. So when you see, the lines moving a certain direction, or, hey, this guy has way higher odds to go 4 than he has to go 5, there's a reason for that. That means, Vegas has heard or knows that maybe this team is targeting a lineman rather than a corner, whereas the other team is, the vice versa. So it's important to always kind of look at the lines and try to see what they're telling you. And then the last thing, and this is just a personal one of mine, is I find either a player or a trend that I really, really like for drafts. And I have one for this year, and we'll get to that later. But for a lot of players, especially in the skill positions or quarterbacks and stuff like that, you can have like 5 or 6 prop bets that are based solely on that like one player or that position. So you can really hone in on that one guy and have, a ton of bets spread out on this one player. And if it pans out, you do great. Now, on the flip side, like if you were wrong with it, you'll lose a good amount of your bets because of it. But you do a lot of your research, and betting is betting. You're not going to win everything. So if you've been doing it for a while and you start to see trends and you start to see guys that you really start to like, that's when you can say, okay, I'm going to put money on each one of his prop bets and see if, hey, if it works out, that's your weekend right there. You're good to go.
Awesome. We are talking to Money Max. Follow him on Twitter at MoneyMaxTPL. You guys want to make some money? Let's talk about specific bets. Dude, what are the odds telling you about the Cincinnati Bengals and that number 1 pick?
It's Joe Burrow. Let's not beat around the bush. He's minus 7,000 right now, which if you imply probabilities, it's about 98.6% that he goes number 1 to the Bengals. It's not worth betting. Minus 7,000 means you have to bet $7,000 to win $100. So if it hits, like, hey, yay, I got $100. If it's not, it's like I just wasted $7,000.
Yeah. So
the people who bet on that are the people who are putting like $700,000 to win $10,000. So to the normal bettor, it makes no sense to even try that bet because you're not betting $7,000. You bet $70. Hey, here's $1. It's not worth it. It just means he's going to go number 1 as he should. And hopefully he can turn the Bengals around from what they've been going through lately.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is a stud. That is 100% a lock. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions. The Lions are sitting there with the number 3 pick with Burrow and probably Chase Young kind of likely gone in that top 2 range. Who do you think goes in that number 3 pick area?
I mean, all the mocks and everything you've been seeing has the corner from Ohio State.
Okay.
Kuda, I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Kuda, yep.
And he's great. I love shutdown corners. I've always loved them, like since Revis and stuff like that. Like having that guy that just takes away your best player and knows he's going to take away your best player. There's something with that. I think it'd be a great pick for the Lions, but if I was them, I wouldn't pick at 3. I would trade because I think they're in a perfect spot where you have the Dolphins at 5 and the Chargers at 6. Both of them want a quarterback. Both of them know the other wants a quarterback. You're sitting there at 3. You don't need a quarterback, or at least you're not going to take one at 3 yet. It's not the worst scenario, but I don't think they would. So you trade the Dolphins or the Chargers, move up, a couple spots to get their guy, whether that's Tua or Herbert, whoever it may be. You trade up, you get them to get your guy, and at 6 or 5, you probably still get, the guy you were going to get at 3 because it's going to be quarterbacks, at 3 if you trade that pick. So to me, you trade it, you try to get whatever other assets you can because it doesn't matter who they like. If they're going to like a quarterback, they're going to think the other one likes them. You play off that, and you make one of them move up with you to still get your guy, and you get extra assets on top of that.
All right, let's talk about some Philadelphia Eagles, baby. I think today the biggest thing has been the Eagles are zeroing in on Henry Ruggs and Jalen Reagor. Dude, there's been a ton of noise about whether or not the Eagles trade up, they trade down, they stay put at 21. What is your take on that?
Well, Howie Roseman, he trades more than almost anyone in the NFL, if not the most. So the odds that he picks at 21, I would think are very, very slim, whether that's moving up or moving down. Now, it might be like he moves up 1 or 2 spots, or moves back 1 or 2 spots, but I would find it very hard to believe he would pick at 21. So what I did is I just looked at all the odds that Eagles players have, whether that they would draft. So there was a list of about like 10 guys or so on FanDuel, put the implied probabilities, and what I came up with is there's only about like a 23% chance that they stay at 21, just based off of the prospects that they listed with these odds. And again, these probabilities are only based off the odds that FanDuel, the sportsbook, has for who the Eagles would take. I think there's about like a 24% chance that they move back, which means there's about a 53% chance that they move up. I don't love the idea of moving up, especially if you're thinking, hey, let's move up for a receiver. The problem is this draft is so great on receivers. The issue, though, that the Eagles haven't really proved that they can draft receivers lately, and that when you've had these stacked drafts, like running back stacked drafts and stacked drafts, the Eagles ended up with Pumphrey in the best running back class, and so it's like, okay, if you love a guy, you go up and get that guy. You just better make sure he's great. They did it with Wentz. I love Wentz. I'm a big Wentz supporter, so I think moving up, if you love a guy, if you're honed in on a guy, and as long as you're not selling the future for that guy, I'm okay with it. So, yeah, I think that there's a stronger than not odds that they move up at some point, to whether that's to 10, 11, or if it's like to 18, something like that, just to get out of a couple other guys. I could see him moving up.
We had Zach Berman join Party on Broad a couple days ago, and his response, we asked him the same question. His response was, it really just depends on the draft board and what happens and how it falls. And it's so interesting. Like, there's been nothing more divisive than the Eagles on Twitter, whether you're on team trade up or team trade back. And it has been nothing but, going back and forth for the last 2 months. I'm personally team trade down. I think it makes way more sense. Trade down, get a guy like Jalen Reagor, and then possibly trade up in the second. Use that pick you got in that trade back and target a guy like Grant Delpit or Jeremy Chin or someone that can really fit what the Eagles do on defense or offense, or maybe find a replacement for Jason Kelce. Get a beast in that center position. But then again, like you said, I completely understand the opposing view. Like, Howie Roseman's draft history with wide receiver is not exactly great here. So getting a sure thing like one of these top 3 wide receivers or a safe bet like Justin Jefferson, I see it on both ends, man. It makes sense, but it's just wild.
I think I'd be a little more upset if they traded up and got Jefferson. I like Jefferson. I'm not one of those people that say he wouldn't fit what the Eagles want to do, and mainly because he went to LSU, and LSU just, wide receiver. Like, that's what they've been putting into the NFL lately. So I'm okay if they take Jefferson. I wouldn't be okay if, hey, we traded up to 12 and we take Jefferson. Like, that would probably be way too much to give up. And even if they got Lamb or Ruggs, I'd be like, okay, that was a lot to give up. But then once you see Lamb and Ruggs in action, you're like, okay, yep, I'm good with this. Let's go get it.
I fully agree. I'm not jeopardizing, though, our top 2 picks. No second round picks. If we're talking move up a few spots with a third round pick, sure. If we're talking Jeudy, we're talking Lamb, we're talking Ruggs, absolutely 100% do it. If you're talking future picks, go for it. But I'm not giving up, a chance to use one of the first 2 picks. You can't do that. Not this year, man. They need team-friendly contracts. They need guys. They need to groom guys. All right, so let's move. Yeah, so let's move on to quarterback, man. Let's talk about the quarterback position. And this is big for the Eagles pick, actually. This has a major weight on which wide receivers fall here. How many quarterbacks do you expect to go in the first round? Vegas has the over-under set at 4.5. What are your thoughts, man?
So I think 4.5 is a really good number, because I think they know for a fact that 4 guys are going to go. You're going to have Burrow, you're going to have Tua, you're going to have Herbert, and you're going to have Love. Those 4 guys are going to go in the first round. So it's just, will one other guy go? In my mind, I'm a yes, because this is part of the trend I was talking about before. I really like Fromm from Georgia. And the big thing with these quarterbacks is teams love trading back into the end of the first round to take quarterbacks. And it's because they get year of team control. First round picks have that fifth team option. So they love going because if a quarterback's good, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid a lot of money, and it's going to keep going up and keep going up and keep going up. So teams love trading back in, and we have the Seahawks, the Titans. There's a couple teams that have said publicly like they want to trade out of the first round. Means it's prime for a team to trade up. And you also have the Patriots who are picking late and just lost Brady. So I think there's enough guys like Fromm, Eason, even maybe a guy like Hurts, like teams see what Lamar Jackson has been able to do, and maybe they fall in love with him. So I think there's a good chance that you could have 5 guys go. And the other big thing with that is if you look at the odds, the over is actually plus 440. So you're getting really good odds. $10 wins $44 if a fifth quarterback goes in. Especially because I like Fromm. I think that's a pretty good betting, especially considering the odds are given.
All right, let's stay on the quarterback train. There's been a lot of talk about Tua being drafted by the Miami Dolphins. Where do you think Tua is going to be selected? Vegas has the over-under set at 4.5. What's your take on Tua right now?
So 4.5 is a tricky number because you're basically assuming then that someone's going to trade up with the Dolphins or the Giants to take Tua, or the Redskins just shock the world and take him and make Eagles fans happy that we don't Chase Young twice a year. So you're really thinking that there will be a trade if you like the under for this. And I actually do, because of like we talked about with the Lions. I do think a team will trade up to 3 to get either Tua or Herbert. So I'm hoping and betting that it's Tua that someone trades up for. And say the Dolphins trade up to 3 and take Herbert. Then you have the Chargers sitting there, and everyone knows that they would take Tua at 6. So if you're another quarterback needy team, do you offer something to the Giants to move up to 4 to take Tua at that point? So to me, especially with the line being plus 180 for Tua to go under, I like that. I think there's enough in there. And I think, especially because now you've been seeing lately, reports are saying that the Dolphins and the Chargers like Herbert more than Tua. So when it starts with Tua, it goes to Herbert next. You know it's real Tua at that point, because then it's smoke screens at this point. The whole like, oh, well, we wanted Tua to come in for his medical report and he wasn't able to because, you know, the shutdown and everything like that. Then it's like, okay, they're trying to throw shade and say, okay, we're not taking Herbert. We want you to think we are, but we want Tua. So in my mind, I think somebody trades up, even if it's the Dolphins to trade up one spot. I think somebody trades up to go and get Tua.
All right, so let's talk about Georgia's Jake Fromm. This is a guy who could go anywhere between that first and second round. What do you expect from Jake Fromm? Vegas has the over-under at 57.5. What do you expect from that lineman?
It's going to be under. And I mean, yes, I really like Fromm, and this is part of what I'm talking about. Like, you find the guy you like and you hammer those bets. 57.5 means he's got to go in, really late in the second round for this not to hit. And we know it's a quarterback league. Fromm has been buzzing. He did well, like on his interviews. He apparently interviewed better than anyone else. And you saw the potential when he was a freshman. He doesn't make mistakes. He's a really good quarterback. I think a team in the late first is going to love him, and he's going to trade up to get that fifth-year option on him. Probably the Patriots, because that's what they do, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer because that's what they do. So I think getting the 57.5 is just going with that under, especially because the odds are only minus 112. A $30 bet wins 27, basically. So to me, that's one of my favorite bets of the draft is the under there.
Yeah, all this talk about the Eagles, man, from Jake Fromm, all these guys, like, that just screams trade down, right? I love the potential of the Eagles getting a good asset in the trade down. But let's go off of the quarterback. Let's talk about running backs. Drafting a running back in the top of the draft, man, this is a dying breed. Josh Jacobs was the first go back in 2019. He went number 24. Rashad Penny was the first one to go in 2018. He went number 27. When you look at the 2020 running back class, man, who do you project to be the first running back taken in this year's draft?
So Vegas does say about a 72% chance that a running back's going to go in the first round. The over-under was set at a half. So just either one goes or no one goes. Swift from Georgia is the number one guy. He's the odds-on favorite to go first. I think personally, I like J.K. Dobbins to be the first running back drafted. He's got plus 1,100 odds, so a $10 bet wins $110. I think those odds are so good with a player who's really, really good from a school who has put out some really good running backs as of late. I think a guy like Dobbins maybe sneaks into the end of the first round. I don't love the bet of will a running back go in round one. I think there's a good chance that they don't, especially because we've been seeing these guys who get drafted in the first round at running back. They're the guys who are holding out, in their fourth or fifth year. You've got guys like Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon. Teams don't pay these guys anymore. So rather than picking a running back in the late first round and having them hold out, you just pick them in, early second round or something like that. But personally, I think Dobbins with those odds is a really, really solid bet to be the first running back drafted. Yes, Swift is good. I'm blanking on who's projected to be the second running back taken. I just think those odds with Dobbins, being that he's a really, really good running back from a really good school who's, produced some really good running backs. I think those odds are way too good to pass up, and he'll be the first one to go. I think early second, maybe a team who drafts a quarterback wants to get him a running back friend to go with it. But I think you could definitely see a Dobbins go early second round.
Love it. All right, now we're going to move into wide receiver. One of my favorite prospects in this year's draft class is Jalen Reagor. I think there was a report today that from Bleeding Green Nation, Brandon Lee Gouton said that the Eagles have zeroed in on Jalen Reagor. Please, please, please draft Jalen Reagor. But we've seen him from all over the draft board, man. First round, second round. Do you see Jalen Reagor as a first round pick?
So it's tough. Right now, Vegas has it 63% that he doesn't go in the first round.
Okay.
I think because this draft is so heavy on wide receiver, and there are your top three and then maybe top four if you want to throw Jefferson in there. But again, at the end of the first round, you got a lot of wide receiver desperate teams, and this is a throwing league, so you need receivers. A guy like Reagor didn't put up the greatest stats, so based off old Eagles drafts, there would be no chance that they take him because, Howie loves his college statistics when drafting receivers. I think they've said they're going to change that. I don't know if they are or not. I would love to see him in Philly because he kind of reminds me a little bit of Deshaun.
Yep.
He's a little small, but he's fast, but more so than being fast, he gets open. Yep. You got a lot of guys who can run really fast 40 times and fizzle out in the NFL. You have to be able to get open, and Deshaun just had a knack for that.
Yep.
And you kind of see it with Reagor, and if he had a guy like Jake Fromm throwing to him, he would have had great numbers, and maybe he's being discussed with Henry Ruggs, in the top of the draft rather than later on. So I think because you have a lot of these guys that, your top four, I think for Reagor, if he wants to be a first-round pick, I think you need to hope that Jefferson is more like pick 15 rather than pick 21. So if you have those four guys go top 15, then it opens up because the Eagles want a wide receiver. The 49ers draft late in the first round. They need a wide receiver. The Vikings have 2 picks and need a wide receiver now that Diggs is gone. And Reagor would be a really good complement to Thielen in Minnesota. So I think Reagor has a really good shot at going first round. I would love if the Eagles, you want them to trade back a couple picks and still get Reagor and add in another pick in the draft somewhere. But if I was betting, I would probably stay away from will he go first round.
Okay.
But I think the odds are good enough that if you want and love Reagor, that a smaller bet on, yes, he'll go first round will pay, a decent payout. So I think that would be a good bet if you really do love Reagor.
Awesome. Let's stay on that wide receiver train. We are going to talk about the top 3 wide receivers in this draft. You got Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb. But let's talk about Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. Between those 2 receivers, who do you expect to be taken first between those 2?
Lamb. And it's not even close in my opinion. I think Lamb, when you watch him, just his, ability to yards after the catch and ridiculous catches that he makes. And I think when you add that onto the fact that Jeudy kind of has been declining in terms of his opinion around the league. I know the Wonderlic test came out, and I don't put too much stock into that, and he got a 9 apparently. You know, some guys just aren't good at taking tests, so I wouldn't put too much stock into that, but he does seem to be falling where, you know, I've seen mock drafts come out now where he's slipping to the Eagles at 21 without moving. So I think there is something there where, you know, CeeDee Lamb's going one way and Jeudy's going the other. So to me, that's really not close at this point. I think the only battle of the first wide receiver is really if a team falls in love with, you know, Ruggs' speed and wants that more so than Lamb, because, hey, Lamb might just be a product of that Big 12 spread him out offense that just puts up great stats and stuff. To me, though, I think Lamb is the best receiver in the draft. I think teams know that. I think he will be the first. Probably in that 10 to 12 range, I think, is where he goes. And I do think he's going to trade up to get him. The Eagles, one thing, I just don't think they'll do it, mainly because people think they will.
Right on. Right on. All right, last question, man. Between quarterbacks Jake Fromm from Georgia and Jacob Eason from Washington, which quarterback do you think is going to be taken first between those two?
I think we already know the answer to this. I'm a big Fromm guy. This is, you know, staying on the Fromm going first round from, you know, under 57.5, and Fromm will go before Eason. I think just the way Fromm is trending right now, and I think because of what everyone saw in him his freshman year and the potential's all there, big time school, SEC, I think all that just adds into that. I think he's going to go first round. I think it's going to be 25 to 32, somewhere in that range. Somebody just trades up. Someone loves him. They're going to get him and have that fifth-year option and be pretty set.
Awesome. That is Money Max. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at MoneyMaxTPL. Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, no problem. I can't wait to keep doing a little bit more once hopefully the NFL season starts kicking up and we can do some NFL straight betting, line betting, stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Your best bets articles absolutely kill it. Make sure you check those out. For Max, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh, man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the